Hey everyone, in this video you're going to learn how to build a calendar. Not all the calendar, just 1 month out of this calendar by using new data APIs and the latest JavaScript. Let's get started. So this week's video is going to be in Learn JavaScript Build. It's one section of the course that is kind of blended into the main course. And this project is entirely free, and I'm going to walk you through it, how you can think about it, and how you can use modern JavaScript and data APIs to complete it. So we go to the lesson over here. This is the end result. We're going to build a calendar, just 1 month out of that calendar, and specifically January 2018. It's just because January the 1st is going to be a Monday, and I want this to start from Monday until Sunday. The notable features that you can see here is that we have 31 days, we have all the numbers of those days, we also have the short version of the name, we have the day name in a short version, so Mon for Monday, Tu for Tuesday, and the weekend is highlighted in a different color, and finally you can click on those days to highlight them. And the given code is just two empty files, index and date helpers. The HTML is just an app calendar, and we already have a couple of CSS for the day, the name, the weekend, and when it's selected. And we're going to have to complete the app calendar at some point. So let's start by selecting the app calendar. That's going to be using query selector, app calendar, and if you want to test if that's working, you can console log it. Do we have the calendar? Yes, that's going to be our calendar. Now the goal of this is to create 31 days, and normally we're used to creating an array and then iterate over it. So maybe we can have an array out of 31 elements. There's a way to create that shortly with array.from, I think. But this is one of those scenarios where using the for iteration makes sense, because when you want to count numbers, then this is where it makes sense to use the for iteration. But if you have an array and you want to iterate over it, then it makes sense to use for each. So over here, I'm going to start the day at 1, and I'm going to go, and the condition is going to be, as long as the day is less than or equals to 31, keep on iterating, and then every iteration will add 1 to the day. So it's going to be day equals days plus 1, shorter version would be plus equals 1, and an even shorter version would be day plus plus. To make sure we've got this correctly, let's console log the day. And yeah, we're going to get a 1 all the way to 31. Now we can go back to the calendar and then insert adjacent HTML before end. And then we're going to insert over here a div with the class day. And we can interpolate, because this is a template string. We can add the day over here. And yeah, we're going to have 31 divs. They look like this, and with a little bit of CSS we can make them already look like a calendar. I really like to use display grid over here, display grid, which allows me to define the horizontal and vertical structure of that calendar. So I define the grid template columns. You're literally describing how will the columns look like. You can say 1fr, which stands for a fraction. This will take up all the space and give every element one block or one fraction. If I do 1fr, 1fr, then they will be divided into two equal fractions. So if I do 2fr, 1fr, then the first one will be twice as big as the second one. And notice how this behavior is for the columns. So what we want here is this 1fr 7 times. So then we could have a calendar and say this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. And this works, but you can also write it in a shorter way. So repeat 7 times 1fr. And now we have the same result. And we can define the grid template rows. That's going to be repeat 5 times 1fr, because we have 5 rows. But this is not going to work yet. And if you're confused why, you can just add a background color green. And you're going to see that's because the app calendar itself does not have the entire height. So now when we give it a height, 100%, it's going to work. We can also run the test to see if we have something working. Nice, we already have the app calendar has 31 days and the CSS stuff are working. Next up, we can start by doing the weekend detection, for example. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to start by creating a method called isWeekend that will take the day and it's going to return either true or false. For now, return true. And then I'm going to call this isWeekend method for every day. So inside the iteration, I'm going to call it, save its result in weekend. Now I need to add a conditional class over here, which is the class weekend. If I add it now, then they're all weekends. But I only need to add it when this weekend variable is true. So what I can do is also interpolate and say, and use the ternary operator. So weekend, is the variable weekend true? Does it have a truthy value? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the class weekend. If not, then I'm just gonna add the empty string, which means no class. But this isWeekend method is returning true all the time or false all the time. So it's a bit hard to see it. But let's take this, let's extract this and console log it and clear the log from the previous time. Yeah, if we make it return true, then we will get weekend, 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 weekend. So that's because it's a ternary. If this value returns truthy, then this is the string value that's going to be returned. If not, then it's going to be empty string. That's exactly what we're using here. Now let's try and figure out this this isWeekend method. If we start with the first row, we can say if the day is 7, yeah, that highlights Sunday. If the day is 6, that highlights Saturday. But we need a way to do it for all the weekends. And this is where you want to have the same strategy repeat per row. And mathematically speaking, the easiest way to do that is by using the division remainder. So if I show you console log, the division remainder of day by 7. So if you take the day, divide by 7, let's say it one more time, you will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. And this 0 is this one over here. We can also do it like this. All right, let's clear and see it one more time. So this is the day 1, the division remainder is 1, and then when it's 7, it becomes 0. And we want to allow these two, we want to return true when the division remainder is 6 or 0, because look, when we go to 13, so this Saturday, we get 6, and the other Sunday, the next Sunday, we get 0. So in fact, it's going to be return day modulo 7 equals to 0. And that's how we highlight all the Sundays. But we also want to return true when this day modulo 7 is equals to 6, which is going to highlight the Saturday. I would also flip them just to keep it clear that this is for Saturday and this is for Sunday, and maybe leave a comment. 6 when it's Saturday, 0 when it's Sunday. Now we can refactor our code already. I'm gonna take this function out and put it in the date helpers. Then I can export it. Export isWeekend. And now it's ready to be imported from the index. So I can import isWeekend from, the path has to start with a / because we're importing from a file, not from a library. So that's going to be datehelpers.js. And yeah, it still works. We just refactored our code. We can also run the tests. And Saturday and Sunday have the class weekend. Nice. Now, the next part we're going to code is adding the names over here. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if we go back to the instructions and scroll down, we can see that there is a way to get the day's name. And to get the day's name, we can check this use case on code to go. And if I copy it and I run it, so before I run it, just check that I'm actually recording this on a Sunday. And if I paste this here and I save the name, day name equals this, and I console log it, day name, then I will get Sunday for all of these days. But just because we're hard coding it, we're using date.now, and I am on a Sunday right now. And we want this in short format, so return sun instead of Sunday. So now this is returning Sunday for every single one of them. And this is where we want to create a specific day for January the 1st, 2018, January the 2nd, January 3rd, etc. And I have to change that to new date. And this new date constructor accepts the year. We're going to hardcode that to 2018 because that's part of the requirements, and we only want to build one month that has January 1st on a Monday. And now the month is going to be January. Unfortunately, this is not 1 because that would be February. The months in JavaScript start with 0, at 0. And then finally, the actual day is going to be the variable day. And now I have those days. So there's going to be Monday, Tuesday, etc. Now this works, but you could be in a time zone where based on your current computer time, you are in a different day. And if you want to get the same result on all your users' computer, then you have to pass in here date.utc. And that's going to create date in UTC, which means it's not going to account for your time zone differences. Normally that's not what you want, because when you run date on your user's computer, you want to know what time it is for them right now. But in this scenario, we're just going to go with date.utc because I want this to be time zone independent. Now this is working, but we should definitely refactor it. It's a lot of code here. So I can cut all of this, put it in date helpers in a new method called getDayName that takes the day, and then we paste the code over here, and that's simply going to return day name. And because the options, we know we're not going to change them, I'm just going to remove this variable and put it over here. And yeah, this is the getDayName. We need to export it. And then now we can import it. We can call getDayName of day. And this is going to give us the names again. Now, let's save that in a variable. So const dayname equals getDayName. We can add that over here with a div class name. This is already given in a CSS. And now there's going to be day name. And yeah, we see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. But we see it for every single day, which becomes a bit annoying. In the end result, we only want it for the first 7 days. So this is where you can create an if condition and say if the day is less than 7, so for the first 7 rows, then I'm gonna get the day name, and all of this becomes a variable. And we make it a variable because we want to make it conditional. So we name it name. And we say let name equals an empty string. So yeah, now in all scenarios, name is an empty string, and this is just an empty string. But for the first 7 days, I can change the value of name to be this. And that's how you can show it only for the first 7 days. All right, let's run the tests. Nice, we just have one more, and that is being able to select those days. So after the for loop, because we want to wait for the insert adjacent HTML to be completed, and then we can select all those days. So we can query selector app calendar and then .day, and then for each, so for every one of those days we get a day, and you can console log it, and yeah, you see we have all of those days here. Now I can add an event listener, click, and then we get an event, and the event gives us the current target, which is the div that was actually clicked. We can try this. We can add a console log and see if I click on 10, we get 10, 25, we get 25, and now we can call the class list .add selected, and this is also a class that's already given to you. Now if I click on 10, we select it, 11, but I cannot deselect it, so you have to have toggle here. It will add it the first time, and then if you click on one that it already exists, it's going to remove it. And let's get the confetti. Yes! So yeah, that's it. If you want to solve this yourself, then hit me up in the comments and I can tell you how to check it out. This part of the course is still in development, so make sure to check out the pinned comment. I'm going to keep you up to date in the pinned comment. I might even have an entire free course about dates so that everyone can learn about dates in JavaScript the modern way, like completely for free, but I don't have this ready yet, so make sure to check the pinned comment and you will know when it's live. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to check out the pinned comment because, as I told you, the status of this whole thing might change. There might be a new free course, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!